A billionaire walked into a poker game pretending he barely knew how to play cards. He fumbled with his chips, asked stupid questions, and lost several small hands on purpose. 2 hours later, he walked out with everything the other players had brought that night. The smartest people in history often won by making others believe they were complete fools. These next 5 laws teach the power of deception, surrender, focus, social grace, and reinvention. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. Law 21 reveals why appearing stupid is often smarter than showing your true intelligence openly. Play a sucker to catch a sucker by seeming dumber than the person you target. No one likes feeling inferior, and smart people often make others uncomfortable without even trying. When you appear less intelligent, people relax their guard and stop watching you so carefully. They underestimate you completely and never see your moves coming until it is far too late. Socrates was considered the wisest man in ancient Athens by the famous oracle at Delphi. Yet Socrates constantly claimed that he knew nothing and asked basic questions like a child. He would approach arrogant politicians and philosophers pretending to be confused about simple concepts entirely. His targets would explain their ideas confidently, thinking they were educating this simple old man. Then Socrates would ask innocent follow-up questions that exposed the holes in their thinking completely. By the end, his opponents looked foolish while Socrates appeared to have learned something new. His apparent stupidity was a weapon that destroyed the reputations of the proudest men in Athens. The same strategy works perfectly in modern business negotiations and competitive professional environments today. The person who asks dumb questions often learns more than the person trying to look smart. Your opponent reveals their strategy while thinking they are simply educating someone beneath their level. Columbo was a famous television detective who always appeared confused and disorganized to murder suspects. He wore a rumpled coat, drove a broken car, and seemed barely competent at his job. Suspects relaxed completely around him because they believed he was too stupid to catch them. They would talk freely and make mistakes that a more threatening detective would never witness. Columbo solved every case because criminals never took him seriously until the handcuffs clicked shut. In poker, the player, who seems like an amateur, often takes money from the overconfident experts. The experts bet aggressively thinking they are playing against an easy target with no real skills. The fake amateur waits patiently for the perfect hand and then takes everything at once. Hide your intelligence when it benefits you and let others feel superior in your presence. Their comfort and arrogance become your greatest advantages in any competitive situation you encounter anywhere. Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. Law 22 teaches that surrender can be a powerful weapon when used at the right moment. Use the surrender tactic to transform weakness into power when you cannot win right now. Fighting when you cannot win only leads to destruction and eliminates all your future options permanently. Surrender gives you time to recover, observe your enemy, and wait for circumstances to change. The surrendered position looks weak, but actually preserves your strength for a better future opportunity. Bertolt Brecht was a famous German playwright who faced the House Un-American Activities Committee. In 1947, the committee was hunting communists in Hollywood, and Brecht was a known leftist intellectual figure. Other witnesses fought the committee directly and refused to answer questions about their political beliefs strongly. They were blacklisted from Hollywood and their careers were destroyed by their defiant, brave stance. Brecht took a completely different approach when he sat before the hostile committee members himself. He was polite, cooperative, and seemed eager to help the investigators with their important work. He answered questions in confusing ways that technically satisfied the committee, without actually admitting anything. Brecht praised American democracy and seemed like a harmless intellectual who posed no threat whatsoever. The committee let him go, and Brecht immediately fled to East Germany the very next day. His surrender was tactical and temporary, designed only to survive the moment of maximum danger. The witnesses who fought heroically were destroyed, while the one who surrendered escaped completely free. Oda Nobunaga was a powerful Japanese warlord who nearly unified Japan in the 16th century. When he was young and weak, stronger warlords threatened to crush his small territory completely. Nobunaga pretended to be a foolish young lord interested only in parties and entertainment stupidly. His enemies relaxed and stopped watching him closely because he seemed like no threat at all. Nobunaga used this time to secretly build his army and train his soldiers for war. When he was finally ready, he struck suddenly and began conquering all of Japan systematically. His early surrender and apparent weakness had been a mask hiding his true deadly ambitions. Sometimes the best way to win is to lose on purpose in the short term. Let your enemies grow overconfident while you gather strength quietly in the shadows behind them. Fighting for pride when you cannot win is the fastest path to permanent destruction available. Swallow your pride temporarily, survive the moment, and prepare for the victory that comes later. Law 23. Concentrate your forces. Law 23 warns against spreading yourself too thin across too many goals and projects simultaneously. Concentrate your forces because intensity focused on one point defeats scattered efforts across many targets. A single powerful blow can break through defenses that 100 weak attacks would never penetrate. Energy and resources are limited, and splitting them reduces their impact dramatically in every situation. The Rothschild banking family became the most powerful financial dynasty in European history through concentration. They focused entirely on banking and government loans, while other families diversified into many different businesses. Every Rothschild son was trained from birth to understand money, lending, and financial relationships only. They placed family members in the 5 major financial capitals of Europe strategically and permanently. London, Paris, Frankfurt, Vienna, and Naples all had a Rothschild brother running operations locally there. This concentrated focus on one industry gave them unmatched expertise and connections across the entire continent. Other wealthy families spread their investments across shipping, manufacturing, land, and dozens of other ventures. These diversified families never achieved the dominance that the focused Rothschilds maintained. For generations successfully, Alexander the Great conquered the largest empire the ancient world had ever seen by 30 years old. He succeeded partly because he concentrated his forces on one enemy at a time always. He would throw everything against a single target and crush it completely before moving forward. His enemies often had larger total forces, but could never concentrate them at the decisive point. Alexander always had local superiority because he focused everything, while his enemies spread themselves thin. In modern careers, the specialist almost always earns more than the generalist in competitive markets. The doctor who focuses on one body part commands higher fees than the general practitioner. The lawyer who specializes in one type of case becomes the expert everyone wants to hire. Trying to be good at everything usually means being great at nothing in particular actually. Find your single point of focus and pour all your energy into mastering that one area. Depth beats breadth in almost every competitive situation where quality and expertise truly matter. The concentrated force punches through resistance, while the scattered force bounces off without making impact. Choose your battles carefully and commit completely rather than fighting everywhere with inadequate strength at once. Law 24. Play the perfect courtier. Law 24 teaches the subtle art of thriving in environments where powerful people make all decisions. Play the perfect courtier by mastering the unwritten rules of power that govern social hierarchies. Courts have existed throughout history wherever power concentrates in the hands of a few people. Royal courts, corporate offices, and political circles all follow similar dynamics of favor and competition. The courtier must please those above while managing rivals and subordinates with grace and skill. Baldassare Castiglione wrote the Book of the Courtier in 1528 about the ideal court servant. He described a person who excels at everything but never seems to be trying too hard. The perfect courtier makes difficult things look effortless and never shows the sweat behind their achievements. They are witty but never offensive, talented but never threatening, and charming without being obviously manipulative. Every word and gesture is calculated to please while appearing completely natural and spontaneous always. The Duke of Marlborough was perhaps the greatest courtier in English history during the early 1700s. He served under monarchs who distrusted him and still managed to maintain his power for decades. Marlborough flattered without seeming desperate and disagreed without ever making his superiors feel stupid or wrong. He gave credit to others generously and took blame upon himself when projects went badly somehow. His wife was close friends with Queen Anne, which gave Marlborough access to the highest levels. He used this access carefully, never overreaching, and always making the Queen feel in complete control. The Medici family ruled Florence not through military force, but through masterful courtier-like political behavior. They pretended to be simple bankers while actually controlling every important decision in the city quietly. They never held official titles that would attract jealousy and make them targets for enemies. Instead, they worked through influence, favors, and carefully cultivated relationships with everyone who mattered at all. Modern offices require the same skills that medieval courts demanded from ambitious servants back then. Learn to read the room and understand what your superiors actually want beyond their spoken words. Make your boss look good, Avoid outshining them dangerously, and build alliances carefully with useful peers. Never criticize directly when you can suggest alternatives gently and let others take your ideas. The perfect courtier succeeds by making everyone feel good about themselves while achieving their own goals. Law 25. Recreate yourself. Law 25 demands that you take control of your identity rather than accepting what others assign. Recreate yourself because the person you were born as does not have to limit your future. Most people accept the identity that their family, society, and circumstances created for them passively. They play roles written by others and never realize they could write their own script entirely. The powerful understand that identity is a costume that can be changed when necessary strategically. Julius Caesar was born into a noble, but relatively poor family without much political power initially. He deliberately created a new public image as a man of the common people against aristocrats. He dressed dramatically, spoke with calculated passion, and built a personal brand that attracted loyal followers. Every speech, every gesture, and every military campaign was designed to reinforce his chosen identity carefully. Caesar transformed himself from a minor noble into the most famous man in Roman history entirely. His self-creation was so successful that his name became a title for emperors for centuries afterward. Coco Chanel was born into poverty and raised in an orphanage with no advantages whatsoever initially. She invented a completely new identity as a sophisticated fashion designer who defined modern elegance itself. Chanel lied about her past, created myths about her origins, and never let truth limit her. She dressed the way she wanted wealthy women to dress and became the model for them. Her invented identity became more real than her actual history because she committed to it completely. Chanel transformed the way women dressed worldwide because she first transformed herself from nothing into something. George Gurdjieff was a spiritual teacher who understood the power of identity better than most people. He constantly changed his personality, sometimes appearing as a wise teacher and other times as a fool. He would be harsh one moment and loving the next, keeping followers off balance and attentive. Gurdjieff demonstrated that personality is a mask we can put on and take off consciously. Most people are trapped by the single identity they develop accidentally during childhood and adolescence. You can choose your character traits, your style, your reputation, and the story people tell about you. Start by deciding who you want to be rather than accepting who you happen to become. Then play that role so completely and consistently that it becomes your new genuine reality eventually. The person who creates themselves has power over those who let circumstances create them instead passively. These 5 laws teach the power of appearing weak, surrendering strategically, focusing completely, mastering social dynamics. They show that seeming stupid can catch smart people off guard and reveal their hidden weaknesses. They prove that surrender at the right moment preserves strength for future victories later on successfully. They demonstrate that concentrated force breaks through, where scattered efforts simply bounce off harmlessly every time. They reveal that court politics requires specific skills that determine success in any hierarchical environment. They declare that identity is a creation that you can shape rather than a prison trapping you. These patterns appear throughout history because human nature and social dynamics remain constant across all eras. The powerful have always used these principles, while the powerless remained unaware of the game entirely. Understanding these laws helps you protect yourself and build real influence in your own life today. The next 5 laws continue revealing the hidden rules that govern power dynamics everywhere around you.